Thank you. One of the advantages of being last in line is you get to listen. This has been an excellent presentation. I think the best line I've ever heard about manufacturing is that you can't build an economy on taking in each other's laundry. Somebody somewhere has to make something. Dr. Blue, I want to give you a name and a phone number. Habib Dagher, D-A-G-H-E-R, and he can be reached at 207-581-2138. He's the director of the University of Maine Advanced Composites Center. He's one of the most dynamic individuals I know, and I want you guys to become acquainted because they are doing amazing things. They have, for example, a huge testing facility for wind blades. They also have essentially a model of the ocean. They have a tank that can model any situation, any storm, any wave situation on a scale for testing offshore facilities, particularly offshore wind projects. They also have been doing for 20 years composites research. And one of the most important areas, and I want to urge you to please look at this, is nanocellulose polymer technology. We have a gold mine of fiber in Maine, which historically has been used to make paper. The paper industry has been brutally hammered in the last just 5 or 6 years. We've lost something like 5 paper mills to the combination of lower dollars and lack of demand, principally. We need a George Washington Carver of fiber. I remember from the 6th grade, George Washington Carver was the scientist who figured out 100 ways to use peanuts. We need somebody we need that kind of research. University of Maine is doing it. You could be a huge help. So I hope you will get in touch with Habib. You'll enjoy getting to know him, and I think there's some real partnerships to be had. So if you can find a question there, you're welcome to it, but that was more of a statement.
No, Senator King, thank you very much. I'll follow up on your recommendation. I am aware of the work, and we have talked to them previously. We have our leader of our materials and processing reaching out to them to see if they can become part of this institute. So
thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Ms. Wynne-Smith, you know, this whole hearing has been, we're talking about advanced manufacturing, but the implicit question is, what's the federal role? That's why we're here. It seems to me, hearing you today, it's R&D and training, workforce. Would you concur?
I would, Senator, but I would also add that the federal government has a very important, increasingly important role in helping develop the shared infrastructure for 21st century manufacturing. And that encompasses the carbon facility, for instance, we've been talking about at Oak Ridge. It encompasses having a network of the most advanced supercomputers really in the world, and our companies and our researchers being able to access that. It includes,
what if the federal government stopped funding all of this altogether? Just stop, just only built ships and airplanes and defense and maybe some agriculture programs?
I think it would be very deleterious to the long-term future of our country, because so much of the innovations that we're talking about have depended on the long-term stable investments in research and development, and also having, for instance, in the national laboratories. I mean, if any country had to try to replicate the system we have today, it would be virtually impossible. These are absolute treasures for us because they work at the frontiers, but they also work in a multidisciplinary way, and they make things. These national labs have a history and tradition of also fabricating. And so getting our companies to team and vice versa is a huge strategic advantage we have. So nurturing those for complex government missions, including collaboration in our national security front. We haven't really talked about that too much, but at the end of the day, we have to be a great manufacturer. We're going to have tremendous vulnerabilities in national security.
In fact, you can argue when you go back to World War II, it was our manufacturing strength coupled with our armed forces that actually won the day. I remember reading about people in Japan looking up and just seeing all these airplanes coming. How in the world did they do that? And that's part of our national security for sure. I'm going to have your answer that you just gave reprinted and put in the congressional record, because oftentimes around here people talk about the federal government doesn't do anything or can't do anything right. And I think research and development is one of the crucial functions. And of course, so is job training, because we're having these transitions. I want to commend to you a problem, though, and that is what I call the stranded worker problem. You can have a worker who loses their job in a traditional manufacturing industry, and then you create a new job that day in computer programming to program the robots. That person isn't necessarily or likely to be able to do, the person who lost the job can't necessarily do the new job. On paper, it's no net job loss. In reality, it's a tragedy for a family. We have to be focusing on workers in their 40s and 50s who are being displaced by technology and robotics, and how do they get back into the workforce? And I'm out of time, but I hope you all, if you supply some thoughts for the record on that, because I think that's one of the problems facing our country. Training of young people, but also supporting retraining and working with those who are being stranded by the changes in the economy. Madam Chair, I'm out of time. Thank you very much.